In the spring of 1932, in the restless streets of New York City, a case unfolded that would leave behind a legacy of mystery, tragedy, and debate. At the center of it all was a 33-year-old woman named Ana Antonio. She lived in the Bronx, in a modest apartment on College Avenue, alongside her husband, Salvatore, and their 3 young children. Like many families of that era, they had come to America from Italy in search of a better life. But instead of opportunity, they found struggle. New York during the early 1930s was a city under pressure. The Great Depression had tightened its grip. Jobs were scarce. Families were crowded into small apartments. Survival itself had become a daily challenge. Anna's life reflected that. Reality. Born in southern Italy in 1899, she had little formal education. Her world revolved around family, duty, and sacrifice. After marrying Salvatore, she followed him to America in hopes of building something better. But the promise of a new life quickly faded. Salvatore worked as a laborer, earning inconsistent wages. Anna contributed by sewing garments from home, paid only pennies per piece. Together, they struggled to support their growing family, but financial hardship was not their only problem. By the early 1930s, their marriage had begun to fracture. Salvatore drank heavily. Arguments became common. Neighbors would later recall raised voices echoing through the walls, followed by long, uneasy silences. He was described as controlling and quick-tempered. Anna, on the other hand, grew increasingly withdrawn to outsiders. She appeared quiet, exhausted, and trapped. Then, in 1931, 2 men entered her life. One was Vincent Sietta, a local barber known in the neighborhood. The other was Sam Faraci, a relative of Sietta who lived nearby. Both men were familiar faces, ordinary, unremarkable, but what began as casual acquaintance would soon evolve into something far more dangerous. In the weeks leading up to Easter in 1932, Anna confided in them about her troubled marriage. She spoke of frustration, of desperation, and of wanting a way out. Divorce, at that time, was not a simple solution, especially within immigrant communities. It carried stigma, financial risk, and social consequences Anna could not afford. And somewhere in those conversations, a darker idea began to take shape. By early April, a plan had been formed. Salvatore Antonio would die. The night chosen was April 9, 1932, Easter weekend. That evening, Salvatore returned home after drinking. Anna prepared dinner. After the meal, he lay down in the front room and fell asleep. Around 10 p.m., Sietta and Faraci arrived. What happened next would later be pieced together through testimony and evidence. As Salvatore slept, he was attacked, he was struck on the head, then overpowered. A cloth soaked in chloroform was pressed against his face. His struggle was brief, and then it was over, but the crime didn't end there. His body was wrapped in a blanket, carried out of the apartment, and loaded into a car. They drove through the dark streets of the Bronx to a quiet, industrial area near the Harlem River, there under the cover of night. They placed his body in the water. The goal was simple: make it look like an accident, a drowning. Nothing more. Afterward, they returned to the apartment and carefully cleaned the scene. Every trace of violence was erased. The next morning, Anna reported her husband missing. At first, it seemed like a routine case, but 2 days later, everything changed. Salvatore's body was discovered. And the autopsy revealed something critical. He had not drowned. There was no water in his lungs. Instead, the cause of death was suffocation, likely from chloroform. Police immediately suspected foul play. Their investigation quickly led them back to Anna and to the 2 men seen near her home that night. Under interrogation, Vincent Sietta's story began to unravel. At first, he denied everything, but eventually, he confessed. And his confession changed the case entirely. He claimed that Anna had orchestrated the entire plan, that she wanted her husband dead, that she had involved them and promised money in return. Sam Faraci told a similar story. Anna was arrested days later and charged with first-degree murder. The trial began in June 1932. It quickly became a sensation. Newspapers covered every detail. The story had everything: an unhappy marriage, alleged betrayal, and a carefully planned killing inside the courtroom. The prosecution presented a clear narrative. This was not an accident. This was premeditated murder. Both Sierra and Farache testified against Ana, describing her as the mastermind behind the crime. The defense fought back, arguing that Ana was being blamed by men trying to save themselves. They portrayed her as a victim of poverty, of abuse, and of circumstance. When Ana took the stand, she denied everything. She admitted her marriage was unhappy, but she insisted she had never wanted her husband dead. She claimed she had been unaware of the plan and afraid to speak out afterward. The jury listened. And after hours of deliberation, they returned their verdict. Guilty. All 3 defendants were sentenced to death. The decision shocked many. Ana Antonio would become one of the very few women executed in New York during that era. Public opinion was divided. Some believed justice had been served, others saw a woman crushed by her circumstances. Appeals were filed. Petitions were signed, but in the end, nothing changed. On August 9, 1934, Ana Antonio was executed in the electric chair. She was 35 years old. Moments later, Vincent Sierra and Sam Farache met the same fate. 3 lives ended, 1 crime. But countless questions. Was Ana the mastermind? Or was she a desperate woman caught in something she could no longer control? The records provide facts, but the truth remains open to interpretation. And even today, the case lingers not just as a story of crime, but as a haunting reflection of desperation, justice, and the cost of human choices. Some stories end with answers. This one ends with silence.